Uh, so you sent me a link today with Jim Cornette. Was it Jim Cornette show?
Yes, it's the Great Jim Cornette's podcast that he does with Brian Last.
Okay, and it was talking about Dad with Vader, or
Yes,
a thing about Dad and Big Van Vader.
yes.
Um, so thoughts on that? Thoughts?
Well, basically, how Dad had done a shoot interview in like '07, and also said in the book and talked to me about it, that he thought that not managing Leon Vader, Big Van Vader, was a mistake, not a regret, because as far as regrets, he didn't really have any regrets. The only regret he really ever had is that he didn't stay straight with the IRS.
Right.
As far as regrets in wrestling, nah, he worked with the guys he wanted to work with. He shot the angles he wanted to shoot, and if he didn't want to be somewhere, he left.
No,
But as far as a mistake, yeah, it's probably a mistake.
I remember just that it was 1980. It was the very end of 1989,
Yes.
or very beginning of 90, because we were still living in
Middle of '80, like right around this time in '89,
yeah.
October, November
We
'89.
we were living because we were living in Atlanta,
Yes,
and I remember we got like a little cassette tape,
yes,
a VHS tape
yes.
from, I guess, Vader.
Yeah, from Japan.
Well,
Yeah,
not
Steve Harms.
we didn't get it, but
No,
Dad
yeah,
got it.
Steve Harms.
Okay, Steve Harms so sent it, and we got it. And didn't Vader call the hotel room?
Yes,
And you talked to him, or he
yes.
goes, yeah. So anyway, so that it was starting then at the end of '89, the talks
Because Dad
or
introduced
something.
Vader to them, because Steve Harms, my pseudo uncle, who was worked a lot in TV in Detroit and in Dallas, and then became a mainstay in TV sports in Denver, covering the Broncos and the Nuggets. He was really good friends with Leon White and Van Vader, and was also the same guy that when Leon first got to the WCW would press the button
For the
to make the
helmet.
steam come out of the helmet, and then
Right.
having to go to the Pepsi factory to be able to get the CO2 to make the stuff come out of the helmet. It was a very, very involved
Right.
process.
So I just wanted to kind of like say that, like the
Yes.
talks, like
Yeah. Uncle Steve gave Dad.
it was late '89.
Yes. Uncle Steve gave Dad the tape of Leon and said, "Could you give this to Jim Barnett in WCW, NWA at the time, and would you consider managing him?" Dad was thinking about managing him, but at the time he was busy with Muda
Mm-hmm.
and trying to put that together. And
Well, I mean, I was already together, end of '89.
But he, I mean,
But
it was Dad was still working on. They were still
right,
fine tuning.
sure,
And I
right.
mean, if you that would have been. I think it was a mistake not to manage Leon, but Dad just gave him the tape and said, "Yeah, just look at this guy. This is Leon White, Big Van Vader," and they were instantly taken by it. I mean, how could you not be? Leon was
Who's they?
the Office,
Yeah.
and Leon was a big guy, well, close to 400 pounds at the time. Huge star in Japan. Work was really solid and could really move for a big guy. I mean, right up there with the one man gang and. Kevin Nash hadn't come around yet, but Sid and the other guys who were just true big guys that knew how to work like big guys. And that was a Dad thought that it was a mistake that he didn't manage him, not just for the money he could have made with him, but finding out the problems that Leon had later in life with how he didn't really play well with others sometimes, got his feelings hurt a lot of times, was a little too emotional sometimes. And, dressing rooms back then were a lot more difficult to, deal with, because nowadays everybody just does whatever they put on in a script and write it out for you. Back then you had to kind of know how to play the game, and you were also working every day, so you were like constantly with each other.
So how do you think? Let's just say that Dad would have managed Vader. Let's say early, well, whenever. Uh, and again, the structure of that company had changed so much to
what
where,
Jim was talking about too.
right,
Would they have allowed Dad to be the manager? Because Jim was
right,
thinking that this was 92, 93. No, this was in 80, 89, beginning of 90. Leon didn't fully get there. I think the first time he ever worked there was Bash
90,
90.
yeah,
Dad had been gone for about
7 months, 6 months.
months, and in his mind, he probably quit about a year before.
Yeah.
But that was now. Dad did talk with them about a year later when Dusty tried to get him to come back in '91.
Mhm.
That wasn't
Talk a little bit about that. Like what are your memories of? Because we were back in Texas.
Dad had been out of there for about a year.
Okay. What are your memories about Dusty calling and talking to Dad in '91 about coming back to WCW?
Dad was running the Metroplex Arena there, doing Texas Wrestling Federation, or whatever we called it at the time.
Steve Austin had just started,
was there,
or was wrestling there.
And Matt Bourne was there. He was about to go back to Atlanta as Big Josh, and Steve was about to take off to go and become Stunning Steve. Dusty got a hold of Dad at the Metroplex, and Dusty, as soon as he came back, they gave him the job, and he just basically called Dad and said the same thing to Dad that he said to Jim Cornette. I need you to come back. I need you to help me. Come on, baby, let's go. And Dad went, babe, I love you, but I can't deal with Jim Hurt. And pretty much like what Dusty had told Jimmy Cornette, you ain't gonna have to deal with Jim Hurt, baby. You ain't gonna deal with him. You're gonna deal with me. You're gonna be dealing with me. And Dad
Mm-hmm.
was like, I'll think about it, but maybe probably not. And they went back and forth for a while. But I mean, that Jim Hurt and the way that company was structured, Dad just didn't want to have anything to do with them. And then a year later, the great Bill Watts took over, and they were looking for Dad, and Dad was like, half in, half out. Then a few months later, half in, half out. And then again in '93, half in, half out. And it just got to the point with Dad, like to Jim's point, the lunacy of that place. Dad was thinking, okay, by '93, if I'm going to make a living in the wrestling business, if I got to make, I mean, I can't go to New York, obviously, because Dad just was not going to be a fit there because Gary Hart would not be allowed to do what Gary Hart does. No one's allowed to do what they want to do in New York. Sorry, but you just weren't. Uh, Dad was like, if I got to make a living in the wrestling business, I can't work for the WWF and WCW. That's where I got to work. I'm just not going to work at all.
Yeah.
But
Who do you think Dad would have picked? I mean, this maybe we.
with Vader,
Yeah, we can think about it and talk about
oh,
it
I
later.
think this is pretty obvious what you would do. This is
And again, he like he may not to go to somebody that was hired and appointed by a committee that didn't know anything about wrestling for
exactly
Dad to go to them and say, hey, this is what I got in mind. They've been like, they
what Dad would
it's
have
up to
wanted to
them
do.
and they don't know the wrestling business. But anyways, if let's just say that somebody, Kevin Sullivan was in charge or a
That would have been easy.
who do you think Dad would have wanted Vader to work with?
Oh, I think this is fairly obvious what goes on. You make him partners with Muda, and then if you have to turn Muda babyface, that's how you do it.
Oh, Van Vader
Yeah,
against
and just
Muda.
have like a little bit of
Yeah.
friction between the two of them. And if Kenji wants to go back home for a while and you want to end his undefeated streak, just have Vader do it. And then Kenji comes back a few months later, he shows up and then he beats Vader. I mean, it's not that hard to do.
Yeah.
But I think Dad and Leon would have been tremendous together. I mean, because that's another guy that, like a Brody, big
Mhm.
physical guy, can work, but had problems dealing with others. That's where Dad would have mainly helped. Because you don't, I mean, if a guy knows how to work, you structure a few things, you don't really got to do that much. The problem with a guy like Vader, like now, the problem with Muda, and this is where the difference between Leon and Muta, right? Muda, you had to structure him exactly the way you wanted him, because left to his own devices, he was just very destructive. But a guy like Leon, you'd only have to worry, he would sabotage himself in the dressing room amongst the other guys. So that's mainly the big reason there. I think if it were given between the choice between Kenji and Leon, I'd have to have taken Leon. I'd have to probably taken Sid too, which Dad also passed on because Kenji got jealous.